I had some biases on colors as well, so I was really glad to see that we could eliminate so many and we could end up with blues and greens, because research supports those being the perfect things to have in a building. Green is a welcoming, a soothing one, if you will, but it's also got some energy to it, so it's a good learning environment, so it's a positive learning environment. Blue, there are those who will say maybe too soothing. Because it also has that kind of setting. And one of the things that I had done, I visited Australia somewhere around the year 2000 anyway, and we went to the Olympic Stadium there. And it was interesting that while schools don't worry about their colors, and you can walk places where they're red, and I'll talk about that in a second, their stadium was blues and greens. And the blues and greens were because they'd already done research on what kind of colors made a difference in the receptiveness of an audience to an event. If you want to understand the whole of something, you have to be able to see it from many views. And by interviewing, if you will, a group of people who are not the same, or the same for something, but surely not the same for everything, you have a better understanding of what whatever it is than you would if you have just my opinion. Or my view. You might have my vision or what I lived through, whatever it happens to be, but you don't have what education means to whatever this group is. A group of people in Mechanicsville, a group of people in Virginia. And I think that when you see from a diverse group of people, men, women, young, old, black, white, Hispanic, first learners of English and second learners of English, you don't have, you've missed a group for whom it's important to understand their view. Because if you're going to meet the needs of all these people, then you need to see it from their view. I don't think that you can always choose to chase rabbits, but you sometimes have to. You need to. And I'll give you an example when, again, I was teaching English. But when I'm teaching ninth graders about something that has to do with dealing with families, it's the perfect opportunity to forget what that story was about and talk about families. Because we're here to do more than meet just an objective. And so if curiosity brings you this way, as long as you get back to here when you need to be, there's a reason curiosity took you that way. And if you stop it, you may have lost that opportunity to either connect to the student or to help them see something that is even more important than what you want to teach in their lives. Mm-hmm. So I think chasing a rabbit is sometimes the right thing to do. I think one of the things that's important to realize, and we probably have a more difficult time of it now than we ever did in the past, but to accept that people are different. And so some people excel at some things and some people excel at others, and there's nothing wrong with that. All of us have talents. Recognizing that there are different talents is important, but education is not trying to make everyone the same, with the same set of talents. It's making their talents that they have enhanced to be productive for them. I mean, it's building up their strengths, shoring up their weaknesses, but when they walk out of here, it shouldn't be a factory. They shouldn't be all the same. And a test that tests them to say we can stamp them all the same is wrong. Our children are more important than that. We know a year from now you're not going to remember most of it. What we want you to know as you leave here is how to get the information and to have some kind of perspective about the topic because of what you've learned here. I think it's interesting that we are now getting into testing over years of absolutely the same thing throughout wherever we are, and we're making a big deal about, and I think one of the magazines called it our draconian methods, at the same time that other people are trying to figure out how we were such entrepreneurs and what our creativity was. So we are becoming them and they are becoming us. And there's something wrong with that. I mean, I used to look at the Japanese school system and they did very well what they did, but what they did wasn't the same thing we did. I can remember the first time I taught calculus and I said something and a kid asked a question. A student asked a question about, and it was about going towards infinity, delta, questions. And his question helped me resolve an explanation that I'd never been able to make before. If you're not learning in that classroom with a student, then I'm not sure how much he's learning either, because if you're the person that knows everything, then you're not trying hard enough either. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think it is reciprocity. I think you learn from them, and you learn, sometimes you learn how to teach it. Because I've been known to say in a math classroom, okay, does anybody else have another way to explain this that will help so-and-so? Because sometimes it's the student who better understands the issue and can explain it to the other person. He gets it, you know, the teacher's beyond that one. So I think it's a community of learners who work there, and you sometimes learn another method, you sometimes learn a clarified answer, you sometimes have an aha moment, and I surely had that in that calculus class. And sometimes you just learn about people, and if you learn about people, you're a better teacher the next day as well. When I went to Santiago, Chile to present some things on building conditions and student achievement and all those factors at a organization of American states, kind of a Latin American group, one of the people that was there from the American Developmental Bank, I think it was, International American Developmental Bank, presented the research they had. And I'm talking about the difference that natural lighting and colors in a room talk about, and tempering temperature and those things. They're talking about whether or not you have a toilet in the school. So I think sometimes we miss how we fit into the rest of this world. If we are doing our jobs in schools, we are helping you understand outside yourself, putting you in someone else's shoes, helping you understand that everybody doesn't come from the same experiences, and helping you understand what it would be like if you came from those experiences. And then I look at the kids who continue to struggle in classes, and I think if somebody put me on the football field and told me I had to be there every day for 12 years and play, whether I was good or not, it wouldn't be much different than the kid who's been told to stay in the classroom and pass mathematics. I think teachers have to ask questions for which they don't have answers. If you ask questions and all the questions are ones that you have a pat answer for, why should they care? They're just going to wait for the answer that you give them. You know, why is it we have to do it the way we've always done it? And I think that's true for lots of things. I don't understand why we have seat time. Why do we have to have seat time? If a child already knows the subject, why are we making him learn it? Why aren't we allowing him to learn something else? That's a curiosity issue. If we have a chance to pull together for your senior year, if there is a senior year though, why aren't we pulling together government and English and all those things to learn how that applies in a civil society, which we need to continue and somehow are missing at times. While there was the sage, he wasn't the person with all the answers, he was the person with all the questions, you know, that you were going to explore with him, is the way I interpret it, and what I remember of it back in the day. And I think we have lost some of that because of what we think we have to have them answer. At this point in my life, I would probably be writing the one about why not. You know, why aren't we doing this? Why haven't we considered that? Why do we do it this way? So it would probably be a book of questions. So, what we have to keep and even perhaps resurrect in some cases is those conversations you talked about. Because if we lose the conversations, which were intimately related to learning, even back in, you know, the Greek times of the Greeks, we will lose connections to each other, which technology can sometimes do, and we will lose that chance to gain wisdom from those with whom we work. So while things may change with technology, and I believe they will, and I believe our schools will be totally different, whether they're buildings or not, whether it's going into your own capsule in your house and having this interactive experience, if we lose connections with each other and conversations with each other, however they are exhibited, we will lose more than we will gain. If a child comes into my classroom and walks out the the same person that he or she walked in. I haven't done my job, and that child hasn't learned. That an education hasn't occurred. He or she should walk out of there with a different perspective, more informed in the subject matter, more knowledgeable, more able to apply things, more understanding of the people around him, more acceptance perhaps, whatever it happens to be, but he or she should be changed.